Everybody says it's so tough using this. Okay, I think the main thing, yeah, we've got a few people saying, Julita says hello, Victoria says there's an echo. It's so tough because we've got a small latency period to check if it works or not. And I figured it out last time. Now, the main thing is, with new teachers coming into teaching, I felt when I was being prepared to become a teacher, they left out a lot of these practical things, like what you were just talking about. How to prepare your files and how to get ready to be a teacher. It's not the content. It's not the it's not being in class. It's everything else that actually goes on with that. Guys, can you just tell me in the comments if the sound is better now? I'm trying to figure it out. I know it's difficult. One day I'll sort this out. Okay. So, what do you think? It's like that for you too? That's what you believe?
Yes, definitely. And I think also, you have these brilliant ideas of what you're going to teach in a lesson and how you're going to teach it. And as soon as you come into class, you realize that, let's say, for instance, there's no technology or the classes are bigger or your time, you don't really always have the time on your side, especially here with us. Sometimes classes are an hour, sometimes it's half an hour. So then you really have to think on your feet and try and ravel a new lesson up in a few seconds. And I think a lot of teachers, that just comes with experience. It just takes time just to find your feet in that regard.
I think you're definitely right. So yeah, guys. By the way, we've got a lot of people on the stream. Guys, if you have any questions for Monique, so Monique, she's also an English teacher, and we're just talking about how she has helped a lot of teachers get into teaching. Well, what I found is that exactly what you said. With experience, you're going to create more. You're going to gather more materials, and you're going to get more used to it. But I also think there's a great thing that happens is as soon as you start teaching, you're also building creativity and practicing being creative, so you can come up with ideas on the spot, and you know what works and what doesn't work, and that's something that's difficult to train. So you actually started a Facebook group, and this is something that's very interesting to me because a lot of teachers need help. But you started a Facebook group for public teachers, middle school, high school teachers. Can you tell me when did you first start doing that, and why did you do that?
This actually happened about 3 years ago. There was a Facebook group for FET teachers, so teachers teaching grade 10 to 12s, where they were sharing literature resources. And I found because the grade 8s to 9s, there's no prescribed literature, it kind of got lost in the feed. So I started a sister group in a sense. I got involved with the admin of the FET group, and I started the grade 7 to 9 Facebook group. And it was mainly started because, working with the department and knowing a lot of people, I'm like a hoarder when it comes to resources.
Yeah.
It's insane. And I thought, well, if I could share it, maybe I could just ease it a little bit for a teacher, it not to be so overwhelmed and struggle the first bit. And yeah, 3 years later, and it's boomed.
Well, I'll believe that. I mean, as teachers, we're constantly scurrying around trying to find more content. I think especially when we started teaching, we're just looking for things to help you. So if experienced teachers can come out and share some resources and things. But I think, the first thing that pops to my mind is, yes, teachers like sharing ideas. But, if only a small group does everything, it feels like the burden is on them. They creating everything, and sometimes it feels like you're not getting the recognition that you deserve, and that's something that a lot of teachers go through. They don't get that recognition for the work that they put in. So is it only you that's creating all this, or are other people sharing? How does it work?
Well, so the resources that we share is really aligned with the curriculum. So I understand you can go onto the internet and find anything English related, but what makes the group a little bit more special is it is aligned with the curriculum. So we actually share tasks and tests and stuff that a teacher could literally just download and go and teach it or provide it to their learners because it's aligned. And with regard to the recognition, yes. I think the main thing is to remember what was the vision for the group. Why did I start the group? I didn't start it to gain resources from other teachers. I started it to help teachers. And a lot of teachers aren't comfortable sharing their resources. I always try and think that they're not comfortable instead of they don't want to. But they aren't comfortable, or they don't have the confidence to actually do it. So there's a lot of times that it goes through that only I am posting, and then I'll have a little tantrum and post a post and say, okay, come on, guys, it's time for you to also share. And I actually started a second group for the younger, intermediate phase teachers. It's very small still. I think there's 200 teachers on, and they're still struggling. But in time, other teachers do get involved, and it just takes on its own life, and it just starts rolling. But the important thing is, why did you start it? Well, it's keeping to your vision.
I think that's perfect. I think it's so easy to get lost in anything, but if you have your goal and you know what to do, it's important. So just to clarify, hi, Migam is here too, another English teacher. Hi, Migam. Yes, Monique, so she created a Facebook group where she shares a lot of things for other teachers that are teaching it's high school English. And it became so popular because so many teachers joined, and some of them started sharing their own ideas and resources too. But I think the reason is, even as you get more experienced as a teacher, if you're in there even for a couple of years, you still feel like you're being judged, right? You feel naked if you share your let's say your lesson plan, and maybe another teacher looks at it and they criticize it and they tell you, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. So we are afraid of sharing ourselves. And I found the same thing with video for me. That was the thing too, is I'm sharing myself, and obviously I'm making a lot of mistakes, like with this live stream. If I do a live stream, many people don't know this, but every time I do a live stream, I lose a lot of subscribers, because you're putting yourself out there, and some people aren't going to like it, and they're going to unsubscribe, or they're going to criticize you. But if you put out something better out into the world, the vast majority, if your reasons are pure and good, then I think it will triumph. What is your vision for, and guys, by the way, if you have any questions for Monique, put it in the comments below. I know it's been a bit of a rocky start. Monique has been a teacher for a long time, and she's also a personal friend of mine that I've known a long time, since university. Monique, what do you think your vision is for the future? What would you like to see in the perfect world happen with these types of groups?
Well, currently, I kind of started thinking, okay, all these teachers that are very, very new to either the grade or to teaching, their confidence, and they're afraid to even ask for resources, because, everybody would go, oh, how don't you know this? Or you should be able to do this. So I actually started thinking about doing like development inside the group without anybody knowing about it. So you can go and do it on your own without anybody judging you. If you need it, it's there. And I started using units in the groups, where I would post, for instance, let's say how to create a teacher file, which is one of the basic things. And I actually have, the dividers, the index, examples of how your ATP should look. And so a teacher could just, click on that and work through it on their own without anybody really looking over them and going, oh, you should know this, or you should have this.
That's fantastic. So ATP, what is that? Action Teaching Plan?
That's like your curriculum, your planning, the yearly planning, and how it should go.
Well, actually, so this is exactly what I went through when I first started teaching. I was still actually studying to become a teacher. Those were my final 2 years. And the most difficult thing is they say, okay, here's your file. It has to be perfect. All your planning has to be in, and it's going to be checked by people in the government, coming down to check it out. And it's so scary because, you have to follow the curriculum, and everything has to be in there. So I think that's a great thing to help them with. More and more teachers are reaching out to get help, and that's what they're getting with that. Okay. How about you? Tell me about, are you busy with classes right now?
Yes, we've been in lockdown now for quite a while.
Hmm.
Um, all the other grades, let's say grade 8 to 11, has not been back to school yet. Only the grade 12s, because they're writing end of the year examinations at the end. So they've been back, and I also do teach grade 12. So yeah, we back at school teaching,
So how it
going
works
along.
in South Africa, we follow with our curriculum. So we've got basically elementary, primary school and high school, right? And then students, when they reach grade 12, that's their final year, and they've got to write almost like an SAT, or they have to write final exam. So all the students in high school, which grade 8 to grade 12, so nobody's going to class except for the grade 12s. And when Barnabas, you're here too. Barnabas, how are you doing, guys? If you have any questions for Monique, she's an English teacher in South Africa, and we're just talking about teaching right now, and also helping other teachers. So with this, so when do you think they'll come back to school?
And the 24th, everybody's coming back. So I think that's going to be quite a thing, because when the grade 12s actually came back, the final year students, it was something to kind of find your feet again, teaching them. Periods are much, much longer, and you need to really have the content specific ready, just to make sure that they are ready for their end of year examination. So I think when everyone's back, and with social distancing and having them wear their masks constantly, and making sure when it's break time that everybody's standing away from one another, it's going to be quite a challenge, or it's quite an obstacle to overcome.
Have you spoken to the students? How do you think they feel about this? Coming back to class. Have you spoken to any? How do they feel about this whole thing, or what is the current mood?
Well, here in South Africa, or my school, the technology, like I said, our learners don't have the technology or the means to technology as we do. So we actually have WhatsApp groups with the learners on. And we send work through to them, or we have been sending work through to them on that basis. And they're excited. They can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm sure they just want to come back to school. I think it was in June already. One of my learners asked, should he wear his school uniform when school starts? And I'm like, okay, guy, it's still months, but okay, yeah. So they're very excited.
I can't imagine being away from school for that long. For 6. Well, how long has it been closed? 4 months.
Since March.
Since March. Okay, 3, 4. Wait, that's 5 months ago. Yeah, that's crazy. I think it's very similar to if you have summer vacation and you go, you go on vacation and you come back, and you can't wait for school to start. So you just take that and you amplify it by a lot, and that's basically how the students will feel. We have a question here by Julita first. She says, how do you keep your spirit in teaching during this pandemic? And we know it's happening all across the world. So she asks, how do you keep your spirits up? And she also asks, how about your resources? So you can answer that however you want to.
Okay, well, if I think about my resources and kind of how I kept my spirits up, I took it upon myself because I was at home as well. Didn't have much to do because I didn't have class every day online with learners, because my learners can't go online.
Yeah.
So I actually took it upon myself and started teaching myself PowerPoint and Word. And so I started developing resources for my learners that's colorful and fun and interactive. And then I would send it out on a WhatsApp in a PDF. And, that kind of made me feel good, because I knew I was giving my students something that wasn't just a black and white typed out, full of questions. So, that was kind of fun. I enjoyed it. I learned. They got something out of it that's better than actually class, if I put it that way. Because believe it or not, in class, we still use blackboards and overhead projectors. So Yeah,
I can't
just to
imagine.
bring some color into the class. It was so much fun.
Man,
I loved it.
I miss all that chalk on my hands, with
Yeah.
blackboards, and it was just everywhere all the time. Migam, so she teaches high school, so it's grade in South Africa we call it grade 8 to grade 12, so it's basically just high school, a couple of those grades. Now, this is something very interesting that I want to say. So, oh, is it working? So one of the things that's going on. Oh, Marta, hello. So this is one of the things that's actually I am used to teaching on Zoom, so I've got my students there. But you're learning a whole new thing where it's not synchronous, it's asynchronous, where you create everything and then you send it into them, and you want to create this learning where it's easy for them to learn outside of class. Many teachers went that route where they make videos or they send links or something, but you actually learn some skills with PowerPoints, and it's very similar to another teacher I know, Plan for Fun ESL. Everybody knows Christina, and she's amazing at creating PowerPoint. So what about, how do you keep your spirits up? As a teacher, you other teachers, how do you motivate each other to stay sane during this time?
That's kind of difficult to answer because I am just a bouncy, happy person overall. I never got down.
Uh,
Um, so that's kind of difficult to say. But it is rather, motivating one another and just, keep on telling each other that you are doing a good job, whatever you are doing. Because I think with that judgment, nobody's in your shoes. Nobody understands what you have to deal with your learners.
Yeah.
For instance, I can only WhatsApp them or I can only do this, but other teacher might only be able to print copies and leave it at the gate at the school. And others might have to, deal with teaching online every day. And whatever you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
You are doing a good job. And I think if you just got to remember that nobody's in your shoes.
Yeah, that's a great point. You're using the tools you have to your disposal. I do want to say, if you are creating these great, resources for the students and other teachers out there that might be watching this, creating PowerPoints or documents for students, you should consider putting it onto Teachers Pay Teachers. Have you ever thought of that? If you make really good things.
Yes, I have, and everybody has been telling me I should do it.
Yeah.
All in all, I had these 6 booklets. 6, I call them my lockdown booklets, and it kind of caught fire because I posted it on my group on Facebook, giving it to the teachers to use if they had to. A lot actually came back and told me, yes, but you can get paid for this. And, I'm a single mom.
Yeah.
And being a teacher in South Africa isn't the best salary. So, you do consider it, but I believe it just comes back to my group. I do not want to take from other teachers.
I see.
To have them pay me.
Yeah.
If it was something I made, I just can't.
I understand what you're saying. You don't feel comfortable doing that, but think about it in the future. Now, we do have some questions here. Barnabas says, do you have an example of the PowerPoints that she creates, like a Google Drive link? I think if you're comfortable, I think maybe after this, I will put the links to whatever you feel comfortable sharing, the group or some documents as an example. Maybe, Barnabas, I will put it in the comments once the stream is finished. And Paul, I'll get to your question now. I do want to say something. So I met Monique at university, and we studied to become teachers together. And because we both studied English, teaching English education, we often had to do assignments together, and we were often in the same group. We were like this group of 3 or 4 people, always in the same group. And she is always she was always bouncy and very friendly, but I've seen her angry when I don't do my part, and then she gets really angry. But it's still funny. Good memories. Migam says, what do you think about online assessment? There must be some pros and cons, but I believe a teacher needs to consider that, especially at this time. Yeah, that's a very good question, Migam. What do you think about that, Monique?
Okay, I'm going to be honest because because of our technology, I haven't even considered it because my learners wouldn't be able to. But I have kind of started, if I had to do it, try to think about it. And, yes, the pros would be it's done at home. You could actually have it graded easier. But I think a big thing would be having your questions set up in such a way that the learners wouldn't just feel that they could go and Google the answers or go and find their parent or brother and sister to come and help them out with. And I think that would be my biggest concern if I had to set up something in that regard.
Yeah, I think so. It's so good for me talking with you because my experience has been, I've been doing Zoom classes and I felt, I could get maybe 80 to 90% of the same type of class I can do in real life, where I meet the students and I've got tests with them where I can listen to them and I can see them. Um, but I think, doing it asynchronously, it's really tough because maybe it should come. So if you send an assignment to the students, and this is what, here in South Korea, where a lot of the professors actually, they did it that way, and I disagreed with it because they're able to see the students online. They chose not to. Now, what I would do is, I think, it has to, you're exactly right. Students are just going to Google it or they're going to cheat. So I think if you do stuff like that, it should have some reference to the student's life or from a personal experience, or it has to be, it should be for them, so that's something interesting to think about, but yeah, do you think you would do things differently in the future so you're using WhatsApp, right? And you just send them the documents. Do you send them voice notes or video sometimes?
Um, I haven't, but a lot of our teachers do send them video clips and voice notes. The video clips are just difficult because they don't have data or, airtime. So you don't want to use it up. Um, they struggle with that. So that makes it difficult. But voice notes, most definitely, I just haven't really needed to, if I can put it that way. And we haven't done any assignments as of yet over lockdown. And the other thing also is the students that are on my WhatsApp aren't all of them. There's about easily 30% of my class that I haven't seen, I haven't heard of. So everything we done during lockdown will have to be redone when classes start.
Yeah, yeah.
So I actually only focused on.
You didn't have a chance to like actually prepare them for that. Say, okay, guys, we've got a week. Let's get ready. This is how it's going to go. So it just ended, or how did that come about?
No, school ended for us. It was holiday. We had a week holiday, and then school would have started again. And in that holiday, lockdown started. So it was just, and then I've never seen them again. So it's difficult in that regard. And also, like I said, they don't have cell phones. Some of them don't have data. It's just you can't reach them. So in my WhatsApp group, two of my learners, I was even shocked. And they were talking about, but what would happen to all the learners that aren't doing the work? And I explained to them that nothing would happen because at the end of the day, it's out of their hands as well. And one of the girls actually mentioned that she's been downloading the booklets, printing them, and handing it out in the neighborhood to the learners that she knows can't access it. And I thought that was amazing. That was really... But there's still learners that just would not have done anything.
She's a hero. Yeah, this is the same happened to us where we didn't see our students. It was during vacation, but fortunately for me, it's so easy to reach all the students. I can get their phone numbers, or I can send them a message on LMS. And it's a shame that we had to wait for this pandemic, this crisis, to actually start learning what would happen, because now we've got, I think now before, if we meet the students again, we're going to make sure that we're prepared for something like this again, where we've got the students' information and they know and we know exactly what we're going to do in case of pandemic, in case we can't see them. So this is going to be more important in the future. Now, we got a lot of questions coming out here. Okay, Barnabas says first, I do not see online assessment as problematic for English language arts because it is all the critical thinking Anyway, besides vocab, even grammar requires practical knowledge. Victoria says, it came to my mind, I'm an EFL, like English as a foreign language teacher. I would like my students to gain self-confidence to start and keep a conversation. Okay, Victoria, I'm going to get to this question first. But how do you see this question about what Barnabas says here about English specifically? Are there some specific things about English that you want your students to learn by these booklets, or what do you focus on for English learning for your students, for example?
Well, because a lot of them, like I said, ain't doing it, I actually looked at more like practice, getting them just to practice English more. So it was more based on comprehension, listening. I actually have, at the end, I started putting in links for listening comprehensions, and then language structures and conventions that they would just practice, and writing. To me, writing is a very important aspect to the language. So there's a lot of writing exercises in it.
I think, well, actually, so for me, we do a lot of speaking. We focus on speaking, and I think, Victoria, if you're also, teaching EFL, for me, it's just all about grammar, vocabulary, and speaking. Whereas, if you're teaching in South Africa or another country, you're teaching, English for like that, then I remember we did so much writing all the time. And I think I'll make a few videos that focus more on writing in the future, some writing tips and ideas. Barnabas, I agree. I think it is a little bit easier for English, but what you said before, Monique, that, before you used perhaps ideas from somewhere else, but now teachers are becoming the creators, where we create, like you said, you put in links, but in the future we might actually record our own voices with someone, or I think teachers are going to move more into this category of creating content for students, and we should think about that. Now, this is a little bit more about teaching English. She says, Victoria says, I would like my students to gain the self-confidence and to keep a conversation, to know how to maintain a communication with students with a different native language than theirs. Okay, so explain a little bit about, for some of the viewers that don't know, in South Africa, there are many different languages, and how can you answer this question of hers? So first explain how it works with the different languages, and how do you motivate your students to, or help them get self-confidence?
Well, okay, in South Africa, we've got 11 national languages, and the learners that are in my class take English as a main language or a home language. And unfortunately, and they're kind of forced into that, but English is then actually more in the second, third language that they have to speak, and they really have to take it on a very high level. So motivating them to keep a conversation and to keep on speaking mostly would be in my class. If I think of in my class, I enjoy playing games with them, speaking games, and just always constantly reminding them to speak English, because that is probably our biggest problem here in South Africa, is the whole class, and I don't speak the language. The whole class would just switch over to Zulu or Xhosa, and then you just lost. And it's just getting them to keep on speaking English. If they reply, they would speak English, switch over, speak English again. And I always, when they speak to one another, I would always go and say, hey, I want to laugh at the joke as well. Could we do it in English as well? And
So
I find games are quite a nice way of getting them to keep on speaking.
I think what's very important, what people should understand is, so if you're teaching in South Africa, or perhaps in the United States, Canada, you need to speak English to be successful in life. It is expected of you, and I think so. Everyone in South Africa, you have to learn English. And you're surrounded by the language too. Other people speak it. You see it on television. It's everywhere around you. So it's very easy to adapt. But in other countries where, for example, here everybody speaks Korean, you don't really need English. So in South Africa, it's you have to do it. Everybody realizes that, and it's good for your career. But so I've got some here. Alone 2020. Hi, how are you? I'm really good. Thank you so much. I'm going back to all the comments now. I think Paul also gave us a question. I have to go back to that. Migam says she agrees with you about self-confidence. Alone 2020 says, why is there so much black in your background? Because it looks very good.
My wall is brown, and when we actually tested it, my PC's lighting is just extreme. I was like this white. So I actually closed my curtains.
I think it looks good. It looks good. So Paul says, what do you think the long-term effects will be on students who struggled pre-lockdown? Will they be kept back a year or maybe even two for future grades where they can't keep up with the workload? Wow, Paul, that's a great question. This is exactly what you're saying. Perhaps 30% of your students, you cannot reach them. You know, they might be living in a rural place, or they don't have access to a phone and you can't contact them. So they're just going about their lives, but they're missing out on all this learning. 2020, the year that never was. So what do you expect will happen to these students? Will they just pass? Will they just continue because they're missing out?
I don't even want to guess, because your guess is as good as mine. There's a lot of talk that they will just pass the grade, which is difficult, because what are you going to do with them next year? And this is not even coming from English. I'm just thinking maths and science and all those other subjects.
You miss 6 months of maths. You know, I like, if you zone out of maths for like a class, then the rest of your year is destroyed. Imagine missing out on 6 months. Yeah, I've no idea what they're going to do about that.
And imagine missing out on 6 months and already having a backlog. Because another thing to remember with South African learners is, for instance, my learners in my class are on a primary school level English, which makes it insane, because you're teaching them on a high school level, but they can only read. Reading is a very, very difficult part in South Africa. They can only read on a grade 3-4 level. Wow. So imagine, I don't know. It's going to be interesting year next year. Let's rather put it that way.
Yeah, a lot of my viewers might not know, but there is there are different schools, and there is a difference in class. So a lot of students, they don't have access to good teaching or education when they're growing up, and then you get stuck with students that are so far behind, and it's so difficult. I definitely understand that. Carlos, you left a question here. You said, here students from public school feel left behind, as many do not have access to internet and also took longer to start remote activities, while the private schools moved faster. Yeah, that's definitely. How help the students not to feel left behind? Yeah, this is a great question, Carlos. I haven't even, this is why I love getting these questions, because it makes me think about this too. So, Monique, what are you going to do once the students get back to class? Do you have any kind of idea how you can make them, not feel left behind, make them feel like, guys, it'll be okay? Like, what are you gonna do?
Well, I've already thought my first day would probably just be taking summary of who did what and where are we and who is back. Who's back in my class? Who hasn't returned at all? That would probably be my first step towards teaching again. But I think ultimately it would be a thing about reminding them that they are not alone. It's not a thing that only happened at our school. It's happened to everybody. And yes, the private schools they are much more ahead than anybody else. But ultimately it is, we have core skills and core things that you need to know. And as long as I can remind them that if we are fine with that, we will be fine. We don't have to, be as ahead as everybody else, or we practiced, we did our thing. And it's everywhere. It's in the world. Just to remind them that we are not alone. It's not just you. There's thousands of learners who has not had access to education, and you are not alone.
Very true. Alone 2020, your name is so perfect. One of the viewers' names is alone 2020. That is perfect. Yeah, I think, this pandemic, even though it divided us so that we can't see each other, it also connects us because everybody is going through this experience. But if you can just tell your students, well, we have this core skills that we want to practice, if we can just complete that, then you can feel better about it. Right. There was a really good question here by Victoria also after. She said, would it be possible, so like right now we're learning how to use online better, online learning, online teaching. And I think, a lot of teachers, at first we're just trying to keep our heads above water. But now that we see the power of using online teaching, using maybe a blended approach, but now she raises an interesting question. She says, would it be possible to try this kind of cooperation through internet video calls or some kind of, so internationally, is it possible, for schools internationally to maybe work together or do like unofficial debate contests or talking with each other? Do you see schools working together online more or internationally? This isn't something I thought
think
about.
That would be, yeah, listen, when you mentioned it now, I was also like, yeah, because I remember, when you had your learners write letters and you had that pen pal letter system going where you can write somebody, overseas and the learners, that's actually a brilliant idea, how have online debates if, possible. And I think that would be amazing. Wow. I think it would just be a big thing would be parent or meeting up with the school that the learners don't feel inadequate. Yeah, they should be level, because I wouldn't want my learners to, interface with a school where the learners are much more progressed or anything, because that would bring their confidence down. So it would just be pairing up with just the right school. That would be actually
I think that's amazing. A very beautiful idea. By the way, Maria, hi, good to see you. Benuri, it's good to see you too. You're a little bit late, but don't worry. The first half I was struggling to get everything right. Actually, what we're talking about is in the past you would find teachers, we would send on Facebook or wherever, we would find teachers and ask them, can we, send postcards to each other, and that was a fun way. But now, in the future perhaps, you can find a school and the learners can find a partner to practice with, and that will keep it interesting and they can learn from each other. I think some of the best language learners are those that actually actively try and reach out to people living in other places. So they've been doing this on their own. But if we as teachers can start using this, I think the students can advance. It reminds me, there was this interesting thing that they did. They took a class of students in England, and I think for 3 or 6 months, they switched them with a class of students in China, where they study 16 hours a day or 12, 14 hours a day, and they just compared how the students went. So I think there are definitely the possibilities are endless now that we think about it, but the technology needs to advance quickly enough, because otherwise, places like Korea where the internet is so good and the technology, and then places like Africa, might get left behind, a lot of the students, Let's quickly, and if you have anything to say, you've been such a good guest here. Usually, me and the other guests, we fight for airtime, because we enjoy talking, but you're so patient. So if you have anything to say, just say, Eric, I've got an idea, and just speak over me. I think, it's so nice to see you, Monique. We work together so much, and I really miss those times at university. Yeah. Do you have some good memories?
It was good times.
Yeah. What is one of your best memories from university?
I will never, ever forget our project we had to do. I can't remember what the topic was as much, but I remember we had to, I can't remember, but we had like this creative idea of doing that news report. And then we had the reporter and the news report in the newsroom, and posters we still made. I remember that. And that was, I will never forget that. Don't you remember that?
No.
It was in our 4th year.
I wasn't there in the 4th year. I was gone.
No, you were. You still wrote the script. I remember that very
I,
specifically.
oh yeah, it sounds like I would write a script. Man, I enjoyed writing those scripts. I just went
Yeah.
insane with that. Yeah, it was so
But
much fun.
coming back to her idea with regard to other schools
Mm.
and my groups on Facebook, I was just thinking, it would actually it would work well if a person were able to have the time to actually start a group where teachers from across the world could come together on Facebook and then interchange and see where their levels are on there to maybe link up with schools. That could actually work. That idea, my mind's just running because I'm just thinking that is such an amazing idea. And
Even
you could actually use Facebook groups to do that.
yeah, Facebook groups, and it's. I think obviously if we connect students with each other, we want to make sure that there's some kind of safe way, or they can use email or something like that. That's a possibility. I
But what
like the
I mean
idea.
is not the learners,
Yeah,
more
the
the
teachers.
teachers to
But I
first
mean,
connect with one
yeah, the
another.
teachers are connecting, but at some point they're going to connect their students, you know. But Facebook group for teachers to connect. Yeah, I think there should be more, working together like that. It should be very good. There's something I was thinking about. Yeah, I like the idea. Even you start slowly and you start like, let's say you have a project where instead of it being a long thing, you say, okay, well, I want you to do a project where you interview someone from another place. So you have this live interview and you write down and you ask questions. For me as an English teacher like that sounds so much fun. Okay.
Myself,
I think you were saying this thing where you started learning the technology and you're becoming comfortable with using more PowerPoints and that. And for me, the greatest thing was, with starting YouTube, I'm trying to get more into video and also, online teaching. I think there's definitely a level up that's going to happen. We're going to all have to learn all these things, and it's going to help teaching a lot. Let's go here. Okay, Baduri says, she says, yeah, you are not alone. We should say that to our students. Barnabas says, Victoria, I love that idea. Migam, the first assignment English teachers would give students when they come back to school, write a paragraph about what you did during lockdown. Yeah, I said that in one of my COVID-19 video. There's this meme that goes around, and it's this guy that says, English teachers waiting to give that assignment to the students. Yeah, I think we can look at some interesting ways to also get the students to talk about it, right? And not just writing a paragraph, but some interesting, fun way of doing that. And then Victoria says, or to engage them as email friends to make them face the real life challenge and raise awareness of intercultural aspects of communication, right? Baduri says, in my university, we have made groups with lecturers and students. It works very well. Okay, well, yeah, no, I think, there are so many possibilities. Yeah, Monique, is there anything you want to talk about? I've been hogging all the time.
No. Not much. If I maybe, go back to the Facebook groups that I've created. Creating a group is one thing, but the safety aspect with regard to that is also, like you mentioned now with the learners, is very important. The group that I created hasn't grown much. We're on, I think, just over 3,000 teachers. But the thing was, because we share such sensitive documents like tests, if a teacher had to use my test and my learners were on the group, that it would be conflicting. Just to make sure that whoever is in your group is the people that you want in your group. So, for instance, my group, no parents and no learners are allowed. I ask questions. My joining question is in such a way that if they don't give me a specific number, you don't come on. And yes, it kind of dampens the growth of the group. But again, what is your vision with the group? I didn't want a group with 10 or whatever thousand people on. It was more helping teachers and teachers only. So I think that is important just to remember. And that, yeah.
We definitely have to look at this Facebook groups because, Facebook, we see it as a place, just for social media and to post memes and pictures of us, photos of ourselves. but actually it can be used to connect teachers with each other, especially teachers that feel alone and they don't know what to do. Who was it? I think it's Barnabas that says my school is very strict on curriculum. Now the thing is, I think it's good if the school, if everybody works together and everybody knows exactly what has to be done. And then the next level of that is with Facebook groups, you know, where more teachers can have input and share ideas to get a better idea or a better version of what to do, right? So being strict is one thing to make sure everybody can do it, but if you really want to see growth, you know, all the teachers should add something to it.
But that's just the thing. We just as strict on our curriculum, and that is why we could actually, you know, I know exactly per week, given through the government, what the learners should be taught in that time.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, there's a few things that come into play because their guides or their what I should do when it's too much. It's just so overloaded that you know, today I'm doing summary, tomorrow I'm doing this, and the next day, that the learners never really grasp the concept. And that's the unfortunate thing, I think, in South Africa with regard to curriculum. And we're just as strict. And that's why that group, you know, all the teachers everywhere, I know already, if the learners come back, the first thing that they have to do is a listening comprehension about COVID. Everybody's got to do it, the whole South Africa. And, you know, if everybody in South Africa has got to do it, then, you know, if I've got one, why not share it with the next teacher?
Excellent, right. Yeah, so that's another thing, you know, I think, you know, with, as teachers, you get so much work you have to do, and it's actually scary because every teacher for every subject has this boatload of work they have to give to the students, and the students just have to be like, you know what, I think this subject, I'm just going to focus on this one right now. And yeah, I think it's up to the government to do something about it. This is wait, there's something else I wanted to say, but I can't exactly remember. Vicky and Barnabas, you got each other's email addresses. Good job. Carlos says, I would like to say thank you for Eric to bringing Monique to talk to us, but especially to her. Thank you, Monique, for sharing your ideas, views, and experience. You have a great sense of humor. Excellent. Thank you so much for saying that, Carlos. Now I don't have to thank her. You said exactly everything that we wanted to. Yeah. Okay. So, what are we going to finish on? I think anybody, if you have any final questions, we've got a couple of minutes left. Monique, we'll just wait for them to talk a little bit. Barnabas says, my first unit is on encountering new cultures, so I could probably argue for the collaboration with people around the world. Yeah, I think definitely using that. Okay, yeah, is there anything, I feel like I'm missing something that I wanted to talk about. Is there anything else that we were going to talk about, or that you want to talk about?
No. I'm fine.
Well, you know what? I'm so happy that you came on here because I've spoken to so many teachers. Every teacher that's been on here told me, Eric, I had such a good time. But before they came on, they said, oh, I'm so nervous. It's going to be so difficult. How was your experience with this?
Yeah, I'll just be, you know, naked. Beforehand, I didn't even want to do it because I've never done this before. I was so afraid. I could just picture, you know, these questions coming to me and I'll do go, don't know what to say. And yes, it all boils down to being a good interviewer, hey? If you're a good interviewer and you can make sure your interviewee is comfortable, it just becomes such a fun experience. And I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
I overcame this little obstacle and fear. So thank you.
You were such a good speaker. I really enjoyed having you on. And I think the thing is, you know, especially if it's something you're passionate about, and you know, when you start teaching, obviously you learn things and you're passionate about it. But the more you do it and the more you learn, the more you want to share that and you like talking about it. So as soon as you get a chance to talk about it and these questions come up that also makes you think, it's such a, you know, revitalizing experience or energizing experience.
Most definitely.
Okay. Everyone, I think I'm going to end the live stream there today. I know I had some issues with the technology and stuff. Monique, I hope that you have a great time and everything goes well I hope the students can come back quickly. Yeah, I think, you know, there's we've got so and also with the groups. Yeah, good luck with the groups. Think about, you know, how you can share it, and if in the future, if you want to share anything with an audience or something, please let me know, and I can share it with them. Okay, any final words? Anything you want to finish on?
Just thank you so much for the opportunity, and nice meeting everybody.
Yeah.
And yeah, just remember you're not alone and you're doing the best you can do.
Excellent. Monique, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Good luck for everything you're going to do. I'm going to quickly say goodbye to you and then say goodbye to everyone here. Monique, have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.
Have a good Sunday. Bye-bye. Go here and mic on. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining. I know it was a bit difficult to talk about all these things. Elsa, thank you for coming on. Carlos, you said great things. Victoria, I say Vicky the whole time. I've got a friend whose name's Victoria, so I say Vicky. Thank you for those great ideas. The same. Barnabas, the second week you're here, you've done a great thing. Everyone, Amigam, great to have you. Chalita, Paul, you asked some good questions too. Carlos, Alone 2020, Maria, Beniri, who else? Everyone, thank you so much. Have a great week. I'm just going to continue working, doing some extra things, working on some new videos. Have a great week, guys. And if you have any questions, ask about it. And I'll leave later. I'll leave in the comments. I'll leave some files. Okay, everyone, have a good day. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.